Cardboard Studios presents.
Heavy Cardboard, Episode 18, Agricola. Coming to you from the home of the cheeseburger, Denver, Colorado. Welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium-heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and other related topics in the board gaming hobby. We're your hosts. I'm Edward.
And I am Tony. Hey, let's tell the folks how to get in contact with us. You can reach us on Twitter, @HeavyCardboard. Our Facebook page is Heavy Cardboard. Send us an email at heavycardboard@gmail.com. And, of course, our website is heavycardboard.com.
And if you guys would, we're loving the iTunes reviews and ratings and the stuff on Stitcher. We greatly appreciate it. Speaking of which, we want to give a shout-out to Skippin for the kind review on iTunes. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, he mentioned that he wanted more older games that would be better. And, well, tonight's full of them, so you got your wish.
Right on. Before we get started, let's send a thank you to Game Surplus for their sponsorship of Heavy Cardboard.
Thanks, guys.
They have a great inventory of a lot of imports, hard to find games, and their tagline is the home of great games at great prices, so check them out, www.gamesurplus.com.
So when we're recording this, it's Monday, it's President's Day. Happy President's Day. Nice day off for me.
The two birthdays of my two favorite presidents form the President's Day holiday.
And those are?
George Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
I knew the George Washington part. I didn't know Abraham Lincoln.
George Washington was an amazing motivator of men and turned down absolute power twice. And of course, Abraham Lincoln was just an incredible speechwriter, and then obviously his impact in freeing the slaves. So, two awesome presidents.
Rock on. So it's nice to remember it's not just a day off of work for some of us.
No.
You know,
it wasn't for me.
Sorry. With that said, so the voting for the Golden Geek is still going on, which is the awards given out on Board Game Geek every year, the yearly awards.
Closes 22nd, I think, the voting.
18th or 22nd, something like that. And we were fortunate enough, thanks to our listeners, to get nominated for the Golden Geek Award as the best board game podcast. We were
2014. It's amazing.
Yeah, we were humbled, shocked, blown away, kind of all at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, our little 8-month-old show here is being recognized with some of the juggernauts in the board game media. I mean, I realize that the board game hobby is a niche as is, but even so, to be recognized with, a lot of the other people that were nominated, that was mind-blowing. It really was. It was awesome, man.
We started doing this for fun, and it is still fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is.
Just to think that, we've made a little impact. It's unexpected and pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's cool to know that we've connected with enough people to I guess, make a difference, kind of.
Yeah.
So, a huge thank you to all that voted, and to all those that just enjoy the show. Thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate it.
So with it being the holiday weekend and everything, a long weekend for me, Friday it started off, we went to a local convention. We had one of my favorite single nights of the year, and that's the board game auction at Genghis Khan every year. And this year it was, it was you, it was me, it was Paul, Chuck, it was Scott.
Amanda.
Obviously Amanda.
It was my first Genghis Khan auction.
And we met Nate Hayden. I'd seen him before. For those that don't know, Nate Hayden is a designer who's designed Cave Evil, After Pablo, the Mushroom Eaters, and a few others.
Local here in Denver.
Right. So it's just so much fun. It goes on like 6-7 hours, and it's just, you see the most amazing games that people buy, some of the crap that they buy.
How many times did you hear me say, why did you buy that? For $80,
But at the same time, there were really good deals in there.
I picked up a couple games I'll mention.
Right. And Chuck got some. I got a lot.
He got one I wanted, but...
But it was... So Friday started the weekend off well. Then Saturday, we got the new lights in our game room
Yeah,
done, which
they're awesome.
makes a world of difference in here. And I know you did some gaming on Saturday. I had some of the fellas over. We played Dominant Species.
Yeah.
A couple of them. Brian and Matt in particular, they'd never played it. Oh, I'm sorry, not Brian. Tony and Matt had never
the other
played
Tony.
it. And they loved it. We played Kanban. We played Bandu for what feels like the 40th time in the last 3-4 weeks. You got a bunch played too.
It was Valentine's Day, so what the wife wanted for Valentine's Day was me to play her list of games.
Rock on. If I must, twist my arm, Robin, right?
So that's what we did. Me and her, and then Matt was around, so we did that too.
That's cool. So you'll get into what
We'll
you
talk
guys
about that.
played
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And then on Sunday, we all got together and headed down in separate cars, but we headed down to southern Denver to go to Paul Chad's house for the first time. And
He's got a great place.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Beautiful house. And mutual friend of ours, Kevin, who is an old, like 20-year-old friend of Paul Chad's, came into town with his family. And there were 6 of us. And so we had dueling Arkwright games. We had
2-3 players.
Yeah, 2 3-player Arkwright games going. Eat your heart out there. That was a blast. That was a lot of fun.
You had the harder time because we played each in the different games. And you had to teach 2 players, and the 2 players I played with already knew the game. So
you guys,
thanks for taking that on.
Oh no, I enjoyed teaching. And,
yeah, I know you did.
And it was fun. And even though you guys finished about an hour ahead of us or so, it gave you a chance to play Newland.
Right.
So that's good.
Right, which was a game that was suggested to us in our guild by our listeners.
Yeah, which rock on, right?
Yeah.
So last thing before we really get rocking and rolling that I wanted to bring up is the Heavy Cardboard BGG auction.
Woohoo!
Started up this afternoon. We have pretty wide-ranging amount of games.
Yeah.
So not just the amount, but different. Everything from filler all the way up to games like Upfront, Euphoria, Panzer Second Edition.
Euphoria's already gone.
Oh, yeah, it was there.
It was there. Right.
Stronghold Undead.
Fire in the Lake.
Fire in the Lake. Fire in the Sky, which is a Grail war game as well. So go check it out if you are so inclined. It's going to be running through Saturday. This episode drops Wednesday night, Thursday morning sometime. And it's going through Saturday, so you got a few days to go check it out if you want. And I'm sure we'll link to it in the show notes as well.
Right on. Well, Edward, we just mentioned the auction at Genghis Khan just a few days ago, and so I'm prepared to sit back here for about 20 minutes because I know you spent a lot of money at that auction.
Well,
but what have you acquired, sir?
Well, the games that I acquired that I'm keeping, how about I limit it to that list,
Okay.
all right? So I'll start off with the mushroom eaters. We mentioned Nate Hayden a minute ago. I took the shrink wrap off and showed him the inside of the box lid and said, Nate, personalize it to Edward. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Write it however you want. And he put in a mushroom and signed it to Edward and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Also got what is arguably, some people say, the best 3-player game in existence.
Yeah,
and
that's what you said.
The end of the Triumvirate. I got it for, I want to say it was like $4, which is criminal,
it was
but
something
rock on.
ridiculous.
So I'm excited. So now I have what a lot of people say are all the best 3-player games. We have 3 Kingdoms Redux, have End of the Triumvirate, have After the Flood, and God's Playground, and also Maria. So hey, we got 3-day gaming or 3-player gaming coming out our wazoo. Yeah. Also got a copy of Caelus Magna Carta. You said it was a pretty cool game.
I have a copy.
And so I was like, well, for, $4 or $5 or whatever it was, I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. All right.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And Amanda pointed this next one out to me. She saw the black box because we have Saturn from Theta Games.
Yeah.
And she saw one and she was like, oh, it's fire. Which it looks like a fireplace with wood stacked up and all kind of type thing. And she saw that and she's like, get that.
Dexterity game.
Yeah. So got that. Got Mare Nostrum and the expansion for it, which is a kind of a Civ building game, which I'm a sucker for Civ games. Also got the expansion for Nuclear Winter 68, Heart of Darkness. Interested in giving that a go. We got bunches, just tons of dice from Chessex. That's
Right.
one of Amanda's highlight things at the con. And we were talking about how Chuck got a steal, and it was a game that you wanted.
Yeah.
He ended up getting the third printing of Roads and Boats for $51.
Yep.
That's wow, right? Pretty crazy.
Dog.
The only thing that I didn't get at the auction that I've acquired is a game called Incredible Expeditions: Quest for Atlantis. It's a game we backed on Kickstarter a year and a half ago.
Whoa, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been plagued with delays and everything, and it looks really good, but I'll be honest, it's a game that we've since outgrown. From the time we backed it to where we are now in our gaming lives, Amanda and I.
So what do you mean by outgrown?
It's a little Ameritrashy, that more so than it seems a little too simplistic and a little too luck based and just not really our cup of tea anymore. And so we threw it in the auction.
Okay.
New and shrink. There you go. And
So I'm rubbing off on you then.
yeah, to a point.
To a point.
I'm not as anti-random as you are.
Yeah. Well, I used to be big time Ameritrasher, but I've really, over the last 2 years, that's dwindled seriously.
Which we're both war gamers as well, and so we don't mind dice in that. So I wonder why the difference that is.
Well, I think, in most war games, the dice rolls are, shall we say, weighted, or meaning there's usually a chart that has other factors.
Right.
Versus, like in Zaya, if I roll a 20, I got a victory point.
Sure. Well, no, and we're both
Right.
on the same on
So
the
I
same
think
page when it comes to stuff like
There's
that.
dice done well, and there's dice done not well.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So that's what I've acquired. Your
All right.
turn. Tag, you're it.
Well, at the auction, I acquired 2 games. My wife, speaking of dice, loves dice games, and Ra the dice game was at the auction.
Yeah,
and
you were super jazzed about that. You
I've
were like,
heard it's
big,
actually
big.
not bad,
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get that for the wife. And so we played it. We played it like 2 times consecutively on Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay. So you've already played it. Cool.
Yeah,
Which
and-
I'm sure you'll talk about here in a minute.
Well, yeah, and it's very cool. And I also got Fresco, which is a game I've wanted to try, but I've never been willing to like drop $40 on it. And John had a copy, but when he moved away, I never got a chance to play. So we also played that on Valentine's Day. That's for cool. I acquired Village Port,
Which I'm excited about.
and so I haven't played with Village Port yet, but I've looked into it and read the rules and played around with it, and it was like, wow, I think it's really going to be cool.
We both enjoy Village. We both enjoy Village Inn. And I've always said that the traveling section on the board in Village felt really underpowered and just kind of a thing.
Well, I think it's expensive, but it's big points if you go all the way. But it's expensive.
But it's expensive,
Yeah.
right. And the fact that Village Port covers that area of the board and removes it from the game and replaces it with the port tells me that the designers also felt that maybe it wasn't as good of a part of the game as
it looks
as the rest
awesome
of it.
because you go out to sea with stuff, come back with stuff. You can leave people out there. They can die at sea. You can bring stuff back to the market. I really can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I'm
Village
excited.
Port.
I'm excited because I'm sure you'll play it before I get a chance. So I'm really excited to hear about that.
I got a copy of Sheriff of Nottingham, and I acquired the Britannia Germania map for Concordia.
That has a 2-player side on
man.
it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the Britannia side. And then the Germania side, you can sail your naval colonists up rivers.
Oh, very cool.
So
So,
sometimes-
it's not just coastal.
Right, because sometimes there's like
Nice.
multiple ways to get to some of the inland cities,
Oh,
i.e. river
sweet.
or road. Yeah, very cool.
Rock on.
Well, I'm going to roll right into what I'm hunting because it's really only one thing. And, we've been talking about wanting to play it, and I feel like I should get a copy before I can't get a copy, and that's Versindagsvåg.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if it's available now, it's not going to be forever.
Right.
And it's a game that you and I are both chomping at the bit to play.
I know.
I keep looking up here, and I'm like, where is it? Oh, wait, it's in our bag because I brought it to Paul Chad's to possibly play.
Well, put it in my bag. What are you looking for?
Again, not really actively hunting everything. It's almost refreshing. You know, it's kind of nice to not be stressing out and just be enjoying the games that we have. That said, there are a couple of games that if I see for the right price that I'll jump on, and that's Princes of the Renaissance, because for some reason, nobody out there has sent me a copy. I don't understand why. So, you know what? I'll forgive you guys for that.
This time.
No. As long as they're willing to send the other game that I'm hunting.
And that is?
Horus.
What?
Okay, this is another Theta game.
Okay, yeah.
Good luck trying to find a copy.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, they went bankrupt before the entire print run was done, so there are just a handful of copies out there. It's made to look like sandstone. It's a Theta stone.
Is it also dexterity? Or is it more board game?
It's a Theta game, but it's not a dexterity game. It's it's a ancient Egypt theme. You have an obelisk in there, and you may have to battle some, and it's super, super, super rare. This is a Grail game that I'm probably going to go my entire life hunting, because I think it goes for like $450, and there's no way in God's great earth I'm ever going to pay that much. But if it falls in my lap, sure, I'll take it. But other than that, outside of those two Grails, I'm not really hunting anything. And to be honest with you, the games that are announced as of right now, there's nothing out there that I'm like, oh, cannot wait for. And so I'm not saying that 2015 is going to be a bummer year. It's just maybe I'm just maturing in my taste, and I've gotten over the must acquire everything type phase. So I'm just a little bit more cool. When it comes out, I'm excited to check it out. And, you know, we'll review stuff on the show, and that'll be great. But other than that, yeah, just kind of low and slow.
Well, during the acquisition section, I mentioned a couple of things that I played on Valentine's Day. Fresco, and we played 3-player, and it was pretty darn cool. At the end, Robin was not liking it at first, and then at the end, she's like, I'm going to like that a lot better when I play it next time. Because
kind of like she didn't know what...
Because there's some like screwage in it, like, well, you know, if you're not first or second, you know, and I build your tile, you know, I mean, it's that kind of a game, you know. So at first she was having a hard time adjusting to that because she was having a hard time controlling if she was first or not. And then she got the hang of it. She's like, I'm going to like this better the next time we play.
Okay.
And Matt said he liked it. It feels like Rococo. Matt said he likes it better than Rococo.
Really?
Yeah.
I know Amanda was interested in getting a copy, but we weren't obviously going to bid against you.
Oh, well, we'll play.
On that. So yeah, I'm anxious to try it. She has played it once. I have not, and she enjoyed her play of it. That's cool.
Raw the Dice game, I think, is only a 3-player. It plays 2 to 4, but play it 3. And
does it run too long at 4? Or?
No, it might just be too weird, too chaotic, or something like that with the dice and everything. But the competition for building monuments is awesomely cool. It's very tight.
Okay, I know Raw is supposed to be an awesome auction game.
I love Raw.
I'd love to play it.
We shall do so.
All right.
We played more viticulture with the Tuscany, and before the game I said, listen, woman, I'm I'm beating you tonight. That's it, right? Gloves are off. Well, Matt won, and me and Robin tied.
So it's like kissing your sister, or in this case, your wife, I guess.
And so we were picking it up. I'm like, wait a minute. There's a tiebreaker of money. I've got $10. How much did you have? She goes, I can't remember. Like
12.
10, 12. So I'm like, screw that. I don't see it. You got no money. I took second place.
Cool.
Let's see. Obviously we played Arkwright. We've been playing Agricola. We played more Scoville. And as you mentioned, we played Newland. Mm-hmm. At Paul Chad's yesterday. Again, that's a 3-player game. Plays 2 to 4, but that's a 3-player game.
Okay.
And
you played with the first edition rules.
Right. We played with the German original first edition rules with the Z-Man copy.
Okay, sure.
And it was me, Matt, and Amanda. It's a brutal, hard... It's tough. Like, you can really get into some blockage and stuff like that, which... The game is like a lesson first, and then you know how to play it the second time, because you really need to be careful to guard against not being... The other players can prevent you from putting stuff on the board. I was one turn away. I was going to build the winning building, and the other guys Matt and Amanda are like, boop, 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 you're not even doing that, boop, boop, boop. And I lost all my goods. I mean, it was like brutal. And then Amanda ended up winning.
So, rock on.
Yeah. It was 0 to 2 to 2.
Oh, so
because you're trying to get to 0.
Oh, okay. So now, before you'd played it, when you had just kind of gone over the rules a little bit and everything,
me and Matt as a 2-player,
right? You had said that it kind of gave you a Roads and Boats light kind of feel. Now, having played it now, or a full real game, quote unquote, do you still have that same kind of feeling, or is it different?
I do, because it's not chits or anything like that, but it's the same kind of logistics thing. You know, like, okay, I just made wood. Now I'm going to move that wood over here to build a building. So that took 2 actions because of the distance. And yeah, it's so you get that kind of Roads and Boats light, meaning Roads and Boats quicker. Okay. Or something like that, and less fiddly, but different. It's not Roads and Boats. I mean, it's a logistics game in that similar vein. Okay, cool. What about you? What have you been playing, sir?
Well, obviously Agricola. I mean, that goes without saying. I feel like we've played Bausac or Bandu half a dozen times.
We started yesterday with that game.
Right, and ironically, it was Paul Chad who left his copy here and said, "Here, you need to play this." Yeah. And he'd never played it himself. Yeah, that was funny. And he was like, and so we taught it to him. It takes 2 seconds to teach the game, and he absolutely loved it. It was a blast. It was a hoot. Some serious contortions I was having to do to try and balance pieces. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. That seriously, I stick by what I said previously.
It's a dexterity and yoga game.
Yeah, with stacking and bidding and auctions. Every gamer's house should own a copy of this. I think it would play great with kids. It would play great with like parents type, older, and everyone in between. Truly a great game for all ages.
Unless you're an excessive coffee drinker. If you handshake,
we won't. Mm-hmm. Anyway, as you said, Arkwright, and let me ask you a question on that idea. Obviously, we reviewed it around New Year's, and so it's been almost 2 months. We've played it a couple times since then. Do you still enjoy it? Are you still excited to play it? Do you still love it as much as you did back then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
And we're going to re-rate it and other games later.
Right.
According to our new scale.
Right. So I was just curious if some of the shine's worn off, and it really hasn't for me. And I think I've played it now 8 times.
On my way home, I was thinking about the next time I play it, the way I want to play. A totally different way than I just did.
I mean, that's the biggest compliment you can give a game, right?
Yeah, it's a great game.
Also play Kanban on Saturday with a couple of new players, and they loved it. And they looked at the board and they were like...
The other Tony, how did he like
it? The 2 new players were competitive, and Amanda and I, having played it together, previously, were competitive. And I gave myself the handicap playing on the harder side. We played with Nice Sandra because it's their first play, and everybody at the table loved it and was excited to try it again. Also, at the auction, or before the auction at the con, we busted out a quick play of Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah, that's right.
And that
4-player.
Yeah, that was a silly fun, but it was Amanda didn't quite grasp it on her very first turn,
and I was the sheriff
because she handed you her bag of goods and said, "Here, this is too contraband."
And being a good sheriff, seeing a blonde driver of the goods cart, I said, "Please go forward, madam."
Right, and I just didn't have it in me to bribe you to open it. So it was just lots of laughs, and it was good filler. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. So the reason we got to the con a little bit early, and we had about 45 minutes to kill with that Sheriff of Nottingham game, was because we wanted to touch base with Don and Nightworks to get his copy of Forged in Steel, which just ended on Kickstarter, and we wanted to demo it and see what the hubbub was about and see whether or not I made the right choice in backing it and stuff. And to maybe give our listeners a early preview type thing if they didn't see the Kickstarter.
Yeah, so Forged in Steel by Wade Broadhead.
Which is a friend of yours.
He is indeed. He's the former city planner of Pueblo. And so he And he's a big history nut. And that's how I met him in our history club, our military historians club. So he wanted to do a game that encompassed the history of Pueblo. And so he did Forged in Steel. So we played one era, and we just wanted to share a few thoughts on the game for you people. The board, when you're building up the city, has really a pretty cool spatial element. You know, you have to add everything orthogonally to the quote-unquote city grid. And the way that you build up the city of Pueblo like that's pretty cool.
And it can be either historical or ahistorical, depending on where people are placing their buildings in the various neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's got cards, and the cards are various events in Pueblo history, but the way they come out of the deck isn't the way they came out of history necessarily.
Right.
But they are divided into the eras.
So the 1890 cards, things that took place in the 1890s are going to be in that deck, but they might not happen in the same order. Just like, or I should say, in the similar vein of other card-driven strategy games like Twilight Struggle,
right.
Virgin Queen, Here I Stand, stuff like that. Obviously a different scale of game, but same idea.
When you're building that city, you have various pieces to place: houses, mansions, hospitals, parks, factories, and commercial buildings. And the way the scoring works is the proximity of your houses and mansions to some of those other buildings and stuff. So it's pretty decent. That one era played pretty quick.
Yeah, this game's going to play a lot quicker than I originally thought. I thought it would be like maybe a 2+ hour game, and no, I think it's going to be in that hour to 90 minute range. I think. Yeah, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. No, there are times to where I look at 1 hour games and I'm like, yeah, right. And it felt like there were enough meaty decisions.
Right, what's going on in that hour?
Right, and I felt like there was enough going on that it's worth my time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
There's a fair amount of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, I'll say, take that in the game.
Yes, there is.
There's a mafia role, and the player that selects that can destroy some stuff in a block, and he's probably not going to pick a block that he has a lot of stuff in.
Right.
And a lot of the cards have a bam/response type of thing. So I'm going to play this card on you.
And be like, oh, not so fast,
not
my
so
friend.
fast. I have the reply. So prior to the recording session tonight, I asked Wade if there was a quote he wanted us to say about the game.
Oh, very cool, dude.
And I think he came up with a cool one. What he said was, and I quote, "I was really trying to play Twilight Struggle with 3 of my friends, while honoring an interesting time period and creating delicious decisions and the right amount of stress that wouldn't cause too much AP." I think he did that.
Wow. I'm like, I bet you when Don hears this, he's going to be like, damn it, I wish I would have had that quote during the campaign.
Yeah, put that on the box.
Right. So real quick, in 5 seconds, 10 seconds or less, you excited to check out the game when it gets here?
I am. I didn't back the Kickstarter. I don't back very many.
Right.
And,
you are very few and far between
right.
when it comes to that.
I'm mainly suspicious of Kickstarter games. Having played this one, I wish I did back it, and I will acquire it when it comes in.
Cool. And for me, even though it was only a third of a game, that first era, and it was 2-player, I'm excited to check out more. I'm definitely excited to see the interaction of multiple players and watching and physically watching the city develop. And one thing that Don told us is he's going to check into pricing and making sure it's viable about getting custom buildings for the different hospitals and parks and all this other stuff.
Have some really cool wood.
Yeah, which is never a bad thing, right?
No.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. It did nothing to temper my enthusiasm for Forged in Steel.
Awesome.
Hey Tony.
Hey Edward.
Why don't we talk trailers?
Yes.
I think tonight you have an extended trailer both for our listeners and, correct me if I'm wrong, for me as well.
Indeed, sir. I have this game I want to talk about in an extended trailer manner because I'm really trying to whet your appetite and get this game to the table with you because I know you're going to love it.
All I know is the name of the game and who it's by. And I am, at least superficially interested in it because this is the only game by Matthias Kramer that I have not played that I'm interested in playing that's already out. So, without further ado, roll.
The game is Lancaster, published in 2011 by Queen Games. It's a 2 to 5 player game. It takes about an hour, maybe a little bit more with 5 players. And what's really cool about this game is I call it a worker displacement game, because you place knights who have a strength of 1 to 4 out into the various counties of England on the game board to collect nobles and strengthen your house, right? It's worker placement kind of a thing. But if I place a 2 knight, you can displace my knight, sending it back to my castle, so I need to place it again later this turn if you've played a 3 or a 4 knight, for example. And our knights have squires, as all good knights do.
Well, of course.
That help with their strength. So if my 2 knight, if I feel like I'm going to be displaced, I can put my 2 knight and say a couple of squires out there to make him count as a 4. Now, if you want to displace me, you're going to have to invest some more, aren't you?
Oh, okay, so like a 4 and a squire. Okay,
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also, the counties that you place your knights in have a minimum strength requirement. So if the place is a 2, I can never put a 1 knight there, even with squires.
That I was just going to ask that. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so there's a lot of little tactical things going on in the game. So it creates an opportunity for things like a power move, where I'm going to say place my 4 strength knight with 2 squires, so now my strength is 6. So bang, Somerset is mine, buzz off.
Now
You're going to have to come in hard and heavy.
Right, even stronger
Right.
than that, which I'm going to gather is that's a really strong move that you just
Yes,
did, right?
yes.
Okay, all right.
It also creates the opportunity for some misdirection. So maybe I'll place my 1 here or here, and maybe I'm hoping that I'm going to get displaced by someone. So now I'm causing someone to weaken their position this turn by playing their strength more or sooner rather than they wanted to.
Okay.
And I'm delaying my true intentions.
That reminds me, that little bit that you just said, a lot of the exciting bidding interaction
Yes.
in Three Kingdoms Redux. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm definitely excited about that.
It also creates these, I call them just Donnybrooks, where it's like, boom, here's my knight, bang, get out, here's mine, boom, I'm in there, where just there's
Back
this
and forth,
fierce
right.
battle for something, and it's really fun.
Nice little dust up.
Yeah. There's another cool aspect of the game to put your knights, and that's there's an ongoing war with France, obviously.
Because why wouldn't there be?
Right. And at all times in the game, there's 2 to 4 battles happening down in France. And it can take up to 2 turns to resolve a battle, depending on how many knights are committed to that battle by the players and their strengths and various things like that. And you can really earn some cool points there. But your knight, depending on the battle and how many opponents help you, your knight could be taken up there for 2 turns and not be available to you in the counties of England.
So that begs the next question then, and I'm sure you're going to get to this, is why would I want to commit my knight,
Right.
To this battle in France?
Because of the points.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because you can get some cool points from winning the battles.
Okay.
And the way that the battles, that the different players commit their knights to the battles is really clever, and you can really pull off some sneaky moves. It's very, very cool. And the really wacko thing is if a battle isn't resolved in time, so turn 1, battle's not resolved. Turn 2, battle's not resolved. That means France wins the battle, and all the knights committed to it or can be ransomed back to you for money, or they're out of the round, and you have to re-recruit those knights, new knights.
Huh.
And so that in itself creates an interesting cooperation competition where it's
So
like,
you're
I'm gonna come in and help you win this battle because I'm in this position to snake some points from you, and then together we'll beat that fight. Or maybe you go, sometimes, you know what, I'm just gonna let you take it yourself there and have a knight to ransom. So it's really kind of cool.
So it's like France is the enemy of my enemy is my friend in some cases.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then lastly, there's laws that get voted on every turn, and it's really fun. As you acquire nobles, you acquire votes, and we're voting on these laws, and these laws are just basically ways to earn victory points on certain conditions in the game. Who's got the most squires, the most money, the most knights committed to battle in France, all these different things. Very, very cool stuff.
Sounds good.
And the 2-player version, even though it's got like some odd rules, works.
Okay.
3-player, this is a 4 and 5 player game.
Okay, so it's 2, 4, 5.
In my opinion.
Okay.
There's some cool expansions. There are the reward tiles, which is just a little BGG promo, which is really cool because it adds a little variance to what the different counties offer. And there's the new laws, and I think that's a mandatory expansion because when you get Lancaster, it comes with a whole bunch of laws, but the new laws adds double.
Oh.
So now the
More
variation.
variability.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then there's Henry V, the Power of the King, is the big expansion for the game. And there's things in there I love, and there's things in there that I think add too much. So
let me ask you real quick. Is it modular?
Yes.
Okay,
it is.
which is always a good
Right.
thing.
So one of the modules is at the King's Court. And this is the one I'm like, meh, it's cool, but it might add a little too much to the game.
Okay.
And detract from its core awesomeness.
Okay, all right.
It's one, like, less is a better thing.
Okay.
And the other module is the King's Resentment. And this one I really like because the king gets mad when France wins battles.
Well, yeah.
Duh. And so if you didn't contribute a knight to that battle, the king is going to give you dishonor points.
Well, yeah, because you let England fail.
Yes. And dishonor means negative points at the end of the game. But what's really cool is whoever has the most dishonor and the second most, right, you lose a varying scale of dishonor points. But how many points you lose is directly related to how much dishonor was given out in the game. So the more dishonor that goes out, the greater the penalty. But if there's not very much dishonor, then whatever, I'll go ahead and lose a couple of points. Who cares?
Okay.
It's really kind of cool.
Right.
And of course, you can always put a knight in the Tower of London to redeem yourself and remove some dishonor from you.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around. So you're giving up the knight,
Right.
That dishonored. So he was the one that didn't go and fight.
If I put a 3 knight in the tower,
Yeah.
I just paid back 3 dishonor points.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here you go. Your Majesty. Here's the bad guy. Do with him as you will.
I'm so sorry that I'll let you torture this guy.
Right.
And there's some new laws that are key to the different modules, so I think it's a half good expansion and a half meh expansion.
Okay, but not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
Okay.
So in short, I think the game is fast. It really does play really, really fast. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of tension and conflict. There's blocking with the different, hey, at some point you can't displace me no matter how bad you want to, right?
Right.
And I've played this game a lot, and I feel very confident giving this game a 5 rating on our scale of 1 to 6.
Okay, very cool.
And that is Lancaster. Say, Edward,
Yes, sir.
you have a title in mind for us.
I do. I have actually arguably my favorite game. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely in the conversation.
Alrighty. What game is that?
Well, take a war game designer and have him design a game meant to be played with his Euro-playing friends, and voila, you have Dominant Species, the war game in Euro clothing. So, Dominant Species was originally published in 2010 for the original printing. There have since been 3 printings of the game. Personally, I recommend the third. I think it's just prettier. The artwork was revised in the second. Just looks better. Designed by the aforementioned war game designer, Chad Jensen.
Yeah.
He of Combat Commander and Fighting Formations fame.
Oh, okay.
He also designed Urban Sprawl, but we don't need to talk about that. Published by GMT Games. It plays 2 to 6, and personally, I think it's a 3 to 5 player game. It can play 6 just fine. It's very chaotic, and it can play really, really long.
Okay.
And it can play 2 players, but you're playing 2 animals as opposed to just 1 per player in the 2-player game.
Weird.
So I feel it's a little gimmicky. Some people really enjoy it, though.
Okay.
So it is playable 2-player. Personally, 3 to 5. So what's happening in the game? In Dominant Species, players assume the role of one of the 6 major animal classes. There's mammals, reptiles, birds, amphibians, arachnids, or insects. And each of those animals has their own special ability within the game. The game's broken up into a variable number of rounds in which there are essentially 3 phases. There's an action selection kind of worker placement phase in which players will be selecting actions one at a time until all players are finished. interesting note that everyone starts out with the same amount of action pawns or different workers. However, as the game progresses, different animals, different players will be able to gain and they'll be losing some of their action pawns. So it's not always the same amount of action pawns between all players.
Cool.
Then those actions are resolved in a set fixed order. It always goes top to bottom, left to right on the board. It starts with initiative and ends with domination. And finally, there's a cleanup phase and the game begins a new round. Simple enough, right? But the game's all about survival of the fittest as there's an ice age approaching and your animal class must fight to have the most populous and most well-adapted species on Earth. So what's cool about it? Well, as listeners of the show know, I am a huge worker placement fan.
Fanatic.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a strong worker placement as well as area control game. And those two things should be prefaced for folks about to play in the game or about to play the game, because you're not going to make many friends in the game, but as long as people understand that ahead of time, things should be fun.
Like you said, it's a war game in Euro clothing.
Right. There's tons of tactical decisions that are going to have to be made round around, and the reason it's so tactical is there's this beautiful chaos with these dominance cards, which can absolutely turn the world on its head. There are cards like Catastrophe that will all but wipe out one tile. So if there are 20 or 30 different species, or from 4 different players on there, somebody plays that card, boom, they all get wiped out. And that could be just truly catastrophic, hence the name Catastrophe.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Correct. However, the good thing about this, though, is even if you're behind by like 50 points early in the game, it's not the end of the world. I've been behind that far before and come to not only win, but come to win in a landslide. So just because you're behind early doesn't mean it's not the end of the world. There's a pretty low rules overhead, but lots of depth.
Yeah.
I made a video of this on Board Game Geek, a how to play video, 2 years ago or so. It's about an hour long, but that's spelling everything out in uber detail and all that. I was able to teach this to a couple of our friends in 20 minutes the other night. Yeah. So it's not too bad. The last thing that excites me about the game is it has really engrossing gameplay and you really lose track of time. Like, it's about a 3-4 hour game, but it doesn't feel like it because you're so focused on what's going on in the game. And so it just hums along. I love it. Cannot say enough good things about this. However, there are some things that not necessarily I feel, but that the greater populace might think.
Okay.
It can be too brutal and too confrontational for some people. So if you don't like direct conflict games, then this is very much not the game for you.
Stay away.
There are wild swings in the cards, the dominance cards, like that Catastrophe card. And I'll be honest, 90% of the cards in this game are punishing to at least somebody, if not most everybody in the game. So it can leave people a little bitter, a little frustrated there. Also, it is mathy, but the good news is it's simple math. That said, there is a lot of recalculating of dominance throughout the entire game, from start to finish. Sure. Everyone at the table is constantly recalculating this. It becomes second nature to where you're not focused on that, but there is a lot of math involved in that. But it's, like I said, simple math.
We used to call that consumer math.
Okay, there you go. Like I said, the game can run a little long, 3 to 4 hours or so. But then again, if you're a fan of this show, it's not really an issue, is it?
That's not a big deal, no.
And the last thing is the game can bog down a little the last round or two as people really start to really dig deep in AP and analyze. Sure. Hey, we can see the end of the game coming. We know the Ice Age is almost here, and trying to maximize and making sure they migrate to where they need to be and get all their species out there where they need there. And nature of the beast.
No pun intended.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe a little. And there is one other thing, I guess, and there's a pick on the leader. aspect of this game, but it's an area control game, and that's inherent. It's just going to happen.
But I that doesn't bug me because, like, you know what? If you're winning, I'm going after you in almost anything we're playing, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the point?
Yeah.
Oh, he's winning. Stop him.
But with that said, some of the swings in this game can be really, really big. So it can feel punitive when you're the leader and you're getting picked on by the other players. However, you see what cards are out there, playing accordingly.
Right.
So, as far as a rating, for me, it's a 6.
Yeah, man.
It's one of my all-time favorite games. Easily a 6 for me, but with that said, not all gamers are... This is not a game I would recommend for everybody.
Sure.
Do I feel like this is a Hall of Fame game? Absolutely. But not for everybody.
Right.
If you're not put off by direct conflict in games, you have to give this bad boy a go. And I'll be happy to say that we will be featuring this in a future episode. I will not let that happen.
And I'm the block there because I have to play this game more. I've only played like half a game. We had time for like a learning few rounds one day. So yeah. So and I'm a war gamer, so I'm predisposed to not care about the thrashing of, And it's not like we're rolling dice for the thrashing or anything like that.
No, but there is the randomness of when the cards come out and everything.
But like you said, it's more like there's a lot. The effect is shared a lot.
Yes, very much so.
It's not like just your tile had an earthquake.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes,
Anyway,
you know what I mean.
So that's Dominant Species.
Right on.
So let's roll into our featured game of the night.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to preface something before we get started, though, for our listeners.
Okay.
For the first time, I think, in our show's history, we're going to be coming at this from two different perspectives here. There is a wide disparity as far as the number of plays that we have for tonight's game. Tony has played this probably a couple dozen times, and I've only played it, I think, 5 times now. So it's going to be fun, and I'm curious to see where this takes us, because this is a game in which repeated play is going to be rewarded. So I'm coming at it kind of as a new gamer, and you, the more experienced. So just want to let people know that there are things that I might not realize still about this game, but I think it'll be fun to have a quote-unquote new gamer perspective in a sense.
Right on.
So without further ado, we present you Agricola.
Agricola is BGG's number 5 board game, and it's a classic worker placement game. Produced in 2007 by Lookout, Z-Man Games, numerous others. Designed by Uwe Rosenberg, and the world-famous Clemens Franz did the artwork in the game. It plays from 1 to 5 players. There is a solo solitaire option. I've played it once. That's how boring it was. No.
Well, you're not a solitaire gamer.
No,
though.
I'm really not. I'm really not. I like having other people around the table banging it out with me. It is, I'm going to say, 30 minutes a player, give or take a few based on APing and stuff like that.
Sounds about right.
As far as components and graphic design, there's a couple of little twists to go through with this.
See, and let me say that I have never played this game without the Goodies expansion. Right. I don't know what it's like. So you tell me, what's the base game look like?
The base game is just wooden discs.
Okay, but they are wooden at least.
They are wooden.
Okay, so they're not paper chits like in Le Havre or something like that. Okay,
no,
or cardboard, not paper, obviously.
But playing with the Goodies expansion, where you get the meeples, the veg, I mean, that's just the way to go,
right?
You know? And I wasn't even satisfied with that because I thought the cows looked too much like the wood, so I have white and black spotted cows.
Dairy cows.
Right.
Or Derby or dairy. But anyway, right.
Instead of the little food. Now, the food is paper tokens.
Oh, they are? Or cardboard
tokens. Cardboard tokens,
right. Okay. All right.
So I have bread, I have meat, and I have fish.
Because you have to have fish for the fish pond.
That is right.
Some players, when we play, they're like, here, just throw bread. No. You'll have soggy bread. Fish belong in the fish pond.
The soggy bread is what the fish eat.
Right.
So it can be acceptable once in a while. Component-wise, I mean, the game is wonderful. You know, all the tiles are very thick that you build your farm with.
Mm-hmm.
The cards are of terrific finish. All the game boards, thick cardboard. I mean, there's, other than the original having wooden discs, but now that's replaced with the goodies, I think the game is fantastic from a graphical standpoint.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't know of any graphic design issues with the game. Do you?
None that I've experienced.
Okay, all right, yeah, so pretty solid on that respect then.
I guess I'd say the same thing with the rule book. I've never had a problem looking anything up. Sometimes.
Yeah, we have encountered some edge cases that we have had to refer to BGG for, but usually that has to do with card interactions and stuff like that. But other than that, really no issues with the rulebook. And I have to say, almost all of Uwe Rosenberg's games have pretty good rulebooks. I can't really think of any that are poor off the top of my head.
That's a fair statement, actually. Availability and cost for the game, our friends at Game Surplus have it for $48.
In stock, they also have the Farmers of the Moor expansion for right at $30 as well.
Let's see. You have played with how many players? Have you played all the counts?
No, I have not. No, I've played 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
I've never played 2.
Okay.
I want to, but never have it, and have not played it solo yet.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
But you've played across all the counts, right?
Yeah, I have. Scalability with the game across those counts?
I can only speak to what I've played, and as far as I can tell, marvelous. Just really, really well done, the scaling.
For each different player count, there's different worker placement spaces that are available to the players, so the game scales with the number of players. The only thing that you're going to get with more players is just more game time.
So let me ask you, with the lower play counts, and we're going to pretty much omit the solo, because one play, whatever, it's not that we discount it, just we don't have the experience with it. With the 2-player, though, do you feel like it's gamey at all, or do you feel like it's natural?
Natural.
Okay.
And really good.
Okay.
Really tight.
Okay.
Well, tonight, we're not going to talk about what's going on in this game.
Yeah, because we figure the game's been out, 9 years, something like that, and everybody knows the gist, at least, of what Agricola is.
And there's 1,000 reviews, how to plays, videos, everything.
Right. So we figure we'd omit some of that to leave a little bit more discussion tonight of what we like, what we don't like, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's not to say that every person hearing this is going to know what Agricola is. In that case, we cannot stress enough how good of a resource Board Game Geek is in that respect. Go check it out. Google Agricola. Other than the Roman general, it's the game. And go check it out, and then come back and proceed from here.
All right. What makes this game heavy?
Well, let's start off with the complexity, shall we?
Yes, indeed, sir.
And I didn't really know where to put this, so I'm putting it in complexity, so just go with it.
Okay.
There is unrelenting stress in this game. Sustenance farming in the Middle Ages was no cakewalk, and neither is playing this game. There are 3 engines that need to be running in this game. The reason we say 3 is we're incorporating the Farmers of the Moor here.
Yes.
There's a food engine, there's a heating engine, or ways to mitigate it, as well as a points engine going.
I'm going to take a different approach on this.
Okay.
I don't think the game's complex at all.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's really simple game. Put your worker out there, do that thing.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. All right,
Getting those engines going, that's where the planning rocks.
Okay, but before we get to that...
Oh, okay.
There are tons of decisions to be made. Would you agree?
Yes.
And the complexity can come from having to make those decisions, that you can be a bit overwhelmed, or it can be overwhelming, the amount, or just having to make those decisions and when to make those decisions. So would that add to the complexity, maybe? I could see that. Just not rules overhead. Yeah, the rules, the mechanics are simple, but there's complexity in the depth. But it also rolls into the complexity kind of in the planning.
And I think that's where it is, in the planning. Because there's always 3 or 4 things you want to do beyond the number of workers you have at any one moment. Even later, when you have more workers, you're like, there's still more things I need to do.
And you want to do them all right now before anybody else does.
Getting those workers just means there's more upkeep. There's more overhead to take care of. And so you need to plan like crazy just to be able to muster up enough success to keep your family fed and warm.
which is an important thing, right? For me, this is the quintessential worker placement game. Blocking is brutal in this game, so you have to plan out alternative routes for when you get blocked.
Yes.
And get blocked again.
Right.
And get blocked again.
Every turn.
So you have to plan out you have to have just alternate routes.
Yep.
And I kind of hit on this a little bit earlier when I was talking about the unrelenting stress. This game frustrates me more than any other game I've ever played.
I know it does.
There have been more F-bombs thrown at other players in this game than any other.
By you.
Yeah, pretty much. You have to plan out how to feed your family, how to heat your house, and, how to score points at the end of the game, all while not losing too many points through not having enough diversity. Because you can't just be, like a wheat farmer. You can't just raise cows. Oh, no, not in this game. You have to raise sheep, wild boar, cows. You have to plant grain. You have to plant vegetables. You have to do all these things.
You must do a little bit of everything. Or there's a small penalty.
Right, but you have to be able to offset that penalty. Mm-hmm. And the amount of planning that goes into this is just it will melt your brain. And that, coupled while being stressed out because you're like, how the hell am I going to feed my family? It's just truly that, and that's why I'll be honest. A lot of people don't like this game because it makes them uncomfortable, like physically uncomfortable, just unpleasant feeling.
This is the game that I think demonstrates the separation of those that like difficult and challenging games and those that don't.
Wow, I think you just hit on something. I'm being really genuine here. Gamers like us who like games like Craftsman, who like games like Antiquity, stuff like that, to where it's just hard. Venos, stuff like that.
Right.
I wonder if you could trace all that back and ask one simple question. Do you like Agricola? If you like Agricola, you'll probably like these games.
Yeah.
If you don't, you probably won't. I wonder if there's something there. I don't know if there's a correlation.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This would be an awesome question to get some feedback from our listeners on. But no, that just occurred to me when you said that. I think that's a really, really good point, man.
So let's talk about luck and random factors in this game.
I have never not drafted in this game.
Right.
We're talking the minor improvements and the occupations,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
I know that and correct me if I'm wrong, but normally you just deal out 7 and boom, here you go.
Yeah, different way. There's a lot of different ways, and
we've never done that.
In the early days, I have.
I have never not drafted,
yeah.
And so the drafting mitigates some of that randomness because there are and correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say there are 2,342 different decks.
Yeah, decks or cards. Yeah, both.
Right.
Yeah,
and
so there's a lot of variability there.
And so even in if you don't even want to talk about the expansion decks that they have for this, even within the base game, there are hundreds of hundreds of cards there, and so some have synergy, some don't.
Yeah.
And being able to do various kinds of drafts or, hey, here's your own deck. Pick, however many. So that, I think, eliminates part of that randomness.
Yeah. For me, the cards are, as our listeners are probably thinking, the 5,000-pound elephant in the room for me, right? Here's this random card thing, and... But I think Agricola does the cards right. if you draft them. I mean, just draft them, right? That's the way to go. And they're an essential part of the magic of this game. I think that without the cards, this is the same game over and over and over again. You got to have the cards in this game. And people talk about when you're drafting, just look for 2 or 3 of each kind that synergize. You're not playing 14 cards in this game anyway.
Right.
Don't stress that 8 of your cards suck. Who cares? You're not going to play those, right?
And that's what you told me are my first few games. Look for a couple cards that work well together. Those are the cards you're going to play throughout the whole game.
Right. And I think the cards do 2 things besides giving that magic to the game. They can encourage you down a particular path. Some people say they force you to go down a particular path. Well, I don't think so, because if you're accepting those cards, you're going to probably go down that path. So maybe they're right, but no matter if I want to go down that path or a different path in the game, I can always find some synergy somewhere. So I really don't feel like I'm being forced in any certain way by what I draft. I'm drafting them.
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
And just last thing is, I think the card's value is some cool flavor and sometimes some weird and funny flavor too.
How so?
Just the themes of some of the cards, the names of them, the artwork. And what
like
they
the
do.
alien deck or the fairy tale.
Not
deck
even those, because those are kind of cool, but too weird.
Right.
But when I collect wood, I can leave one wood there and get mushrooms because I'm really out there collecting wood, but I'm also collecting some mushrooms, some food, and they put some interesting things.
Well, there were. I laugh because that makes me think of our last game in which I had a family of beavers.
There you go.
And I say that because
no other game
in which can you feed your family by feeding them wood. Right. A lot of cellulose in my family.
So the cards are not an elephant for me. They're the special sauce.
Okay, so in that case, and this is pretty rare for you, in which you encourage this randomness, mitigated randomness, but you really you think without this, Agricola isn't Agricola.
Right. Without the cards and their special little synergies and the different ones that I have from you, I think it's always the same, right?
Well, yeah, I infinite replayability, but we'll get more into that here in a minute. So, okay, there are a couple other things of randomness in this game.
Right, there are.
There's the minor randomness in which the order in which the cards come out.
Right.
Because I know that, in
the phase 1 cards, there's 3 of them.
Right.
You don't know which order the 3 will be in.
Right. So there's that little bit of
for each phase.
You do know that in phase 1, these are the 3 cards.
One of these 3 cards
is coming out first.
So and or baked bread.
Right.
I don't know if it's 1, 2, or 3.
Right. And so I don't think that's a negative. I think that's actually a positive in a sense that it adds to that replayability.
Absolutely.
And with that replayability, it keeps the game fresh because you're like, well, I don't want to put all my eggs in this basket and bet on that this card's going to be the next card. Maybe I hedge a little. Maybe I go this way. Maybe I go that way. All because of that little bit of minor randomness in the order in which the cards come out.
Still allows you to plan to it and through it, but there's just that little bit of when's it going to be? Right. Do you think game length's a factor in the weight of this game?
Let me start off by saying that I feel like the game length feels right for the length of game. You don't want fewer turns. Well, I mean, you want more turns in between feedings, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes.
but the length of the game feels appropriate for what it is. Like,
Sure.
It doesn't drag, and at the same time, you're not like, damn it, I wish this game went 3 more rounds or whatever.
Although I do feel like that in the 2-player, because literally we can bang out a 2-player in an hour. I mean, and one time, me and Banker Dave played 3 consecutive back-to-back 2-player games because 1 hour just wasn't enough.
Huh. Okay. So let me ask you on that with game length. Do you think the 2-player game specifically, and again, I have no experience with it, so I can't speak, but do you feel like that detracts from the weight of the game then with the 2-player?
No, because it's still just rough.
Okay.
Like me and Dave or me and Matt doing the 2-player. We know what we're doing.
Okay.
And so we can go through things pretty quick. But we're killing each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question then, sir. The first time you played Agricola, like, did you get it the first time?
Nope.
No? Okay, well, what do you think?
This has the unique, I don't know what the right word is, but the...
Quality?
No. This is the only game in my entire life as a hobby board gamer in which I just didn't get it at any point throughout the entire first play.
You're not winning your first game no matter who you are.
Well, no, not even
matter
winning.
who you are.
No, I'm not saying winning. I'm saying
You're
I was just
trashed.
I was just lost. I really didn't have
Did you have to
any kind of cohesive plan in the least.
Did you take any beggar cards or anything?
I think I may have taken one my first game.
Okay.
But I just, forgetting at length, I had no clue what the hell I was doing the first game.
Yeah.
Plus, seeing the final scoring, even though it was on that handy little card and stuff, it didn't help. I had to get kicked in the groin that final time for things to click. So I had no clue until the second game. And even then, I didn't come into my second game thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to... No clue. But I at least understood what I was trying to do about, maybe in the second phase. So I guess maybe like turn 4 or 5, I'd say, of the second game. And that says something because I'm pretty quick on the pickup. But I had, this kicked my ass.
The scoring thing, it's interesting that you mentioned that because sometimes new players can get carried away. Like at the end of the game, 4 pumpkins scores the same amount of points as 24 pumpkins.
Right.
So, I mean, I get that you can eat them and cook them, but you really need to spend actions not getting pumpkins all the time, right?
Well, in fact, in my most recent play, I screwed that up. So again, we're talking my 4th or 5th. I think it was my 5th play. I still had too much grain at the end of the game to where I was just wasting points. So I had wasted actions. So 5 plays in, I'm still struggling with that.
Sure.
Which is awesome.
Right on, man.
I mean, seriously, how many games can you say I'm still getting my ass kicked by the game and really don't know when to switch gears and everything after 5 plays? How awesome is that?
That is awesome.
So let me ask you. Okay. Granted, it was about 2 decades ago.
Maybe not that, but
how long? Or if not for you, how long do you think in general?
Yeah, that might be a better question, but I think you're on the right track. That it's going to be at least a full game, to see what's going on. And there's so many, different little things that can happen, and you're going to get screwed down one path in this game and go, okay, I got it. And then the next game, you're like, oh shoot, I can't. What do you? I needed that.
I zigged.
Now
I zagged last time I did it, but now I'm still screwed.
So it might take a lot of people, most people, me. Several different exposures to the different things that can happen to you on a medieval farm before you can really, okay. All right, let's talk about what makes the game fun and enjoyable for us.
Well, first off, I love that the overwhelming majority of the highest thumb reviews of this are negative reviews from back in the day. I get a kick out of that. When I was going through prepping for the show, I got a kick out of that.
They didn't know what they had.
Yeah, maybe.
At the time, I guess.
Or maybe it just really turned some people off.
Right, what is this?
I thrive on the pressure that this game puts on you. Yeah. It is completely and totally all-encompassing and unrelenting pressure.
The tension.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It's nonstop. It's from the moment before the game begins when you're drafting the cards until you're doing final scoring and you realize that you just got housed.
I get tense when we set up the game. It's when it starts, right?
All right.
Because you can't do everything that you have to do. You just have to do your best. You're always reacting to the other player's moves. So some things are going to be delayed, but you can still get to them eventually because after you take that wood, you're not going to need it for a couple of turns maybe, and I can get to it. Hopefully it's not too late. There's all the anticipation of he needs another room and he doesn't have any wood and all that so you need to think ahead.
That's cute.
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm thinking ahead yet? No, I'm so focused on myself. So, but yes, it's there.
It's just angst, right?
Right.
I can't do everything I want to do. I need to do more than that guy and that guy and that guy. And I know the competition's going to be fierce. What battles will I win? Which ones will I lose? And yeah, that angst, that tension, it's and then it's, oh my God, it's time to calculate scores.
Well, as everyone knows, I am a worker placement fiend.
Right.
And this game frustrates the hell out of me beyond belief, more than any other game.
Good frustration.
And I love it.
Yes, okay.
It's uber tight. And it's the tightest worker placement game that I've ever played. And by tight, I mean kind of restrictive. And with that restrictiveness or that tightness, every single thing you do matters.
Yeah, pretty much.
And, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I love it.
Tableau building with a spatial element. Hello.
Right. Everyone loves or I don't know if everybody, but everybody we know loves building your own stuff. You love seeing, hey, I penned in my little
That's
sheet.
Right.
Don't
take those cows. I just built a fence.
Right. It's obviously the number one game of masochists everywhere.
Yeah, I think so.
And kind of what you were saying about your own Tableau, I love that just seeing that you get to build your farm however you want, wherever you want. I mean, obviously, at the end, everyone's going to try and be diversified and everything.
Right.
But some people are going to focus more on animals, some more on vegetables, and that type thing. Right.
And that's a little engine building element right there.
Another thing that's really cool about this is, at least for a new player like me, is discovering little cool card combos that maybe nobody else has seen, or even if they have, you haven't seen them.
Right.
And being like the last play, Amanda was like, "Oh, I can do." Oh, and when she got the second one out, she was all like doing a little happy dance, like, "Yeah, look what I can do." She didn't care if she was getting trounced. She was cool that she found this cool little synergy that worked and discovered, and that was it was exciting to watch her see that, and because she's at the same level I am as far as number of plays. Really dig that, kind of discovery of the combinations.
Yeah. I dig, just to go on the card theme you're talking about there, the variation of the decks we talked about and everything. The World Championship decks are really cool because it's like, one of the ways to play them is, here's your cards. Take what you need for the game, right? To pick your hand out of this deck. I'll pick my hand out of this deck. That's one of the ways to use that deck. And I think that when we play with that deck, I build far more cards than I do with the other ones. There seems to be a lot more synergy in those decks. So I'm not sure if that's awesome or not awesome, but it's different and it's fun.
Well, and if you don't feel like doing that, you can always pick one of the other decks, right?
Right.
And on that note, there's maybe quite literally infinite replayability in this game because of those cards and because the uber amounts of decks. In fact, I read that in 2016, the new version of Agricola is going to have something like, I'm not exaggerating when I say like 800 different cards in the game. They're going to take a lot of the existing decks and a whole bunch of the play Agricola decks, make them new, and put them into the base game of Agricola. So just totally infinite replayability. Plus, who doesn't love sheeples? Or pumpkeeples?
Pumpkeeples.
I mean, seriously.
Sheeples, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're cool, right?
They are, man. When I play this game, I am always completely engrossed in it. Some games, when it's not your turn,
you get up, go make a sandwich, or
I don't leave the chair. My iPad is off. I'm in this game at all times.
Totally agree. I think one of the highlights of the game for me, and this might sound petty, but it's hearing the lamentation of your opponents and them throwing expletives your way for blocking them and doing and screwing them out of stuff.
Because, like, in your head, you're like, maybe I could be greedy and take this, then that, and then somebody takes that.
Right. Oh, yeah. But we can't. We try not to use that language on the show.
No.
But, there's so many F-bombs being thrown during this game. It's fantastic.
We'll just have to do the Fred Flintstone, Ricker, fracker, Ricker.
Right. So another thing that I really
Yes.
dig, and this is rolling into Farmers of the Moor
Okay,
stuff,
good.
is the special action cards.
Dude, you read my mind. The choices that they add, like in our 3-player game that we just did last week, right?
Uh-huh.
There's only 2 of them there.
And there's 3 players.
But, the agonizing choice of, I really need that pile of wood, but I'd really like to get an extra action by taking this card. Do you think I can get away with it? And,
Yeah, there's a gambling nature
Yeah.
kind of with those cards. And
it's a free play.
Right. So let me ask you now. I have never not played with Farmers of the Moor.
Okay.
Like, from my very first play, we've always had Farmers of the Moor.
Gotcha.
I didn't know any better, so that's that. Amanda played Base Agricola once without Farmers of the
Okay.
Moor because she was in that first game with me as well. And she said she didn't like it because Farmers of the Moor brings so much more to the game.
She didn't like the base.
Right, she
Yeah,
did not like
okay.
the base. She does not want to play Base Agricola
Right.
without Farmers of the Moor. Now, for those listening, tell them what Farmers of the Moor brings to it.
Well, first, I agree with Amanda. I mean, Farmers of the Moor is mandatory, period, done.
Okay. And I know there are people out there that would disagree with you.
Probably.
But I agree with you for what it's worth.
The first time I was going to play with Farmers of the Moor, I was like, oh my God, is that too much? And then after that game, I was like, wow, where has that been? It was that awesome. And here's the things that it adds, those special action cards we just talked about. You can put forests and bogs on your farm so that you can cut peat.
Right. It starts out, and there's variable, like, how many, like 8 or 9?
9. There's 9 start cards, so
Right.
everyone have a different layout of
Where
forest
their
tiles
bogs
and,
are
and peat bogs. And you could cut the peat from those bogs to heat your house, because now you have to heat your house.
Right. Which is
And-
something you didn't have to deal with in Base Agricola.
So now it's
apparently.
heat and eat at harvest. And so, wooden houses, clay houses, stone houses each take, a little bit less heat as you progress.
And I think there are some major improvements that
Yeah.
change that as
There's
well.
there's a major improvement in there that helps with the heating of furnace, and there's all kinds of minor improvements that help with that. There's horses. Yeah, the horses are very cool, and
And the cool thing about the horses is those are not capped at 4 points like everything else
Right.
is, right?
right, and the only way to get them, other than special occupations or minor improvement cards, is through the special action cards. So now if you want a horse, you're gonna have to take some risks, There's more major improvements. There's 118 minor improvements to add to the game. So
And that's just base, not counting all those other special decks. That's just base stuff.
it's
So
good stuff.
it
If you've
adds-
never played with it, don't be scared.
It adds depth to the game, but doesn't really add rules overhead to the game much. Yes,
No.
you have to heat,
Yes.
and you have the horses and how those come into play.
It's just natural,
But
though.
it's
and it
minimal.
adds so much.
I never had now. Keep in mind, I was coming into this brand new with all of Agricola
Right.
and Farmers of the Moor all in my first play. Maybe that explains why I couldn't get it the first game. But yeah, I have no interest playing without, especially those special action cards.
They're super
because
cool.
it doesn't just add actions, it adds another layer of decisions, because you have to decide, do I have to take one right now, or will it come back around and maybe I can roll the dice and leave one of my family members at home to be able to take one of those cards.
And if I decide not to take one of those now, I could still perhaps get it in a minute, but it's going to cost me 2 food
Right.
if someone else has already selected it.
And as we said, that pressure for feeding your peeps is unrelenting. So 2 food, do you really want to just throw those away for that? I don't know.
One thing about this game is we always talk about the gameplay afterwards. It's just, what we did, what we didn't do, what you did to me. I think that's just a hallmark of a deep game.
I totally agree. This is, I said earlier in the show that's kind of the nicest compliment you can pay to a game is after you're done playing it, you're thinking about it and talking about it and running it over in your head. What could I have done differently and everything? That's kind of the biggest compliment you can pay, and that never doesn't happen here.
Right. Are there any things about Agricola that you don't like?
That I don't like, or that people don't like? That I don't like?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to come at it from the same angle. So, what about you? First, you. Is there anything you don't like?
Frustration abounds in the game, but that's not necessarily... It's frustrating. I mean, frustration is never good, but like I said, it's kind of a masochistic thing in that I enjoy the mental gymnastics that this game forces, but it does force you. It's frustrating to all get out. Mm-hmm. So there's that. It induces AP. AP can wreck your life in this game.
Yes.
And if you let it, but
or if you play with those people.
Well, no, and it's on you to make sure that those people don't continue to AP, Dave. But
Banker Dave,
right?
Because I also have former Banker Dave.
But yeah, there it definitely can induce AP, and there's a steep learning curve. Not mechanically, it's just what the hell do I do? Mm-hmm. How do I do this? So how about you? I mean, I have more, but go ahead.
Well, it's not me. I mean,
it's not me. It's you.
There's nothing I dislike about the game, honestly. I hear people saying, "Oh, this card's broken or that card's broken," and I guess I don't care because there's a freaking 1,000 cards.
Well, not only that, but you said it yourself. Out of these 14 cards you're going to get, you play maybe at most half, right?
Given the variation in the cards and that some of them are fan-created at playagricola.com and everything, you know what? There's probably some cards that are underpowered. There's probably some cards that are overpowered. Just have fun. Just play.
Okay. Another thing is, so this game's about sustenance farming in the Middle Ages. That's a bit of a tough sell to new players. That doesn't say, woo, let's have some fun. Come on.
How would you like to grow some grain?
Right. How would you like to be a struggling farmer and miserable your entire life?
Right.
So yeah, it can be a bit of a tough sell.
Sure.
If you frame it that way. You're forced to be tactical with your long-term strategy, but maybe that's a positive, not really a negative. Some people might think that there's not enough player interaction and that it's very much multiplayer solitaire. But I feel like that board, with the amount of blocking and everything that goes on, I don't feel like worker placement games are multiplayer solitaire by definition. It is a massive table hog. At least, again, tell me, is it different with base Agricola as opposed to Farmers of the Moor? I don't think Farmers of the Moor adds that much, does it?
Yeah, just a slight bit.
Okay, so it's just a table hog, period.
Yeah.
Okay. And the amount of planning can overwhelm some players. Having to juggle those 3 engines with Farmers of the Moor, the feed, the heat and feed, whatever.
Heat and eat.
Right, heat and eat, there you go. And getting a point engine going on top of all that. So it can be a bit overwhelming and a bit daunting, I would say.
So why don't you go first in summarizing your feelings of Agricola for us, and then I'll go, and then we'll do our ratings.
Okay. So I don't have like some really well thought out little paragraph or sentence like I normally do on this one. But I got to be honest that I really feel like this is the quintessential worker placement game.
Yeah.
And if this is the type of game that appeals to you, then that opens up a whole world of heavy, mean, hard, thinky games that you and I enjoy.
Yes.
I don't think this has been improved upon in the 8 or 9 years that it's been out as far as what a worker placement game is about.
Yeah, it's number 5 rating, I think, bears out what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me, summary is it's just one of the most fun, challenging, hard, frustrating, brain-stimulating, conversation-generating game that makes me want to play it again and again and again. And like if it wasn't snowing like a demon out there and my drive home is going to suck, I'd say let's play a 2-player right now after this podcast. But let me ask you a question on the summary.
Okay.
How does Agricola rate in weight per minute. The game doesn't really take all that long to play compared to a lot of heavy games we play. I think that for the length of time you're investing in the game, you're really getting a lot of weight out of it, and I think that's a really good.
Yeah, the only when you explained what it was you were asking for there, the only other game that really jumped to mind when you said that's in kind of the same level, I guess two games really are Venus and Arkwright.
Yeah, well, but Arkwright's weight per minute. That's a longer game.
That's a valid point. So maybe just Venus, but yeah, I think this is a hard game in that respect.
Well, let's talk about our rating system. It's new. It's 1 to 6.
Yeah. So okay, a 1 is light it on fire, burn it.
Burn it.
Do not sell this game. Shame on you. To hell with you if you sell this game because you're pawning that off on somebody else.
It's not me. It's you.
Right. Whereas a 2, it doesn't suit us. It's not a fit for us. It's not you. It's me.
Right.
A 3 is, hey, there's some good things that we like about it, but there's also a good amount that we don't like about it.
It's below average. It might have some redeeming mechanic, but to us, it's meh.
Yeah, it's meh. That's a perfect way to describe it. At 4, now this is definitely above average. It's a good game.
Right.
And this is where at the point at which we start thinking about, do I want to own this game? And a 5 is a great game. Strongly, we really like the game and likely to own it.
Yes, sir.
And a 6 is a Hall of Fame game. It may not be a Hall of Fame game for everyone, but it's a Hall of Fame game for
us.
me, or individually
Right,
for us.
right.
And it's a game that we absolutely 100%, if we don't own it, we will go out and own it. So that's our rating rundown.
Cool.
Since you drove, I'll go ahead and go first. I'll let you get the last word here.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have a middle ground, and we don't give out halves.
No.
So it's either it is or it isn't.
There's no 3.5.
Right. And so I gave this some thought over the last couple days, leading up to us recording, and I was thinking, you know what? This is the quintessential worker placement game. If you know what? No, I'm not even going to preface. It's a 6. It's an absolute Hall of Fame winner, but hold on, there is a caveat.
What?
And it goes back to what that really cool, interesting point that you brought up. If you like those really hard games like Venus, games like Craftsman, that type they're hard, they're
challenging.
Yeah, and just that kind of beat you up a little.
Yeah,
If that's your type of game, then yeah, this is a 6. If it's not, stay far, far away.
Well, you didn't answer my question.
What?
What are you rating it?
I'm rating it a 6. For me, it's a 6.
People want to hear what we think.
Right. It's
not,
a 6.
If you like this game, it's a 6, but if you don't, it's a freaking 2.
Right.
Dude, is this a 6?
Yes,
All
it
right.
is. I think
I think so too, my friend.
All right.
That's Agricola. All right, moving on to other things, how we normally begin our wrap-up of the show. Let's talk about some other topics first.
Yeah, I wanted to touch base and let people know that St. Baldrick's is coming up, and what this is there's you get your head shaved. Mm-hmm. You get donations and volunteer to get your head shaved, and these donations go towards kids with cancer, fighting cancer for kids. Back when I used to play poker for a living, this was an annual thing, and I'd get a couple $1,000s donated from various poker players around the world. That was pretty awesome.
That is cool.
Life got busy. I stopped doing it, and I'm no longer playing cards for a living, obviously. But I thought, now that we have a bit of a small little platform here, I thought maybe I'd start it back up. So St. Baldrick's head shaving day is right. It coincides with the Friday of St. Patty's Day.
Right.
So I want to say it's like mid-March, in about a month. We're going to throw a link up in the show notes, and we'll mention it on our Facebook page and on Twitter. If you were so inclined to donate, awesome. If you don't, that's fine too. No worries. And this kind of touches base or hits home for me. I lost my mom to cancer a number of years back. Granted, this is about kids with cancer, but you know what? Screw cancer, regardless of the age.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, and if you're interested in donating, that'd be awesome. Appreciate it.
Right on.
And Tony will be there to tweet out pictures, I'm sure.
Yeah, I go with the theory that my father-in-law suggests. He says, God only made a few perfect heads, and on the rest he put hair, so I'm keeping my hair.
That's awesome. So, on a less serious note than that, Hands in the Sea is about to launch on Kickstarter.
Awesome.
It launches Sunday, February 22nd, so that's going to be just 3 or 4 days after our show drops. We're not promoting it because, we're getting compensated. We're getting nothing for advertising this at all. We know the designer.
We know the designer. We know
like
the publisher.
The game. We just wanted to see it succeed, so we're doing this because we like the game.
We think it's worth its success.
Yeah. So, real quick, Hands in the Sea takes its inspiration from what A Few Acres of Snow started. It's a 2-player deck-building war game set during the First Punic War, which is Rome versus Carthage around 260 to 240 or so BC. What sets Hands in the Sea apart from A Few Acres of Snow is that there's a ton of new elements that it brings into the game. It has navies, it has turn-based scoring, it has some realistic random events, among a plethora of other things. If you're a fan of the time period, or you're a fan of 2-player war games, or you're a fan of deck-building games, or you're
naval games.
Yeah, or if you're just looking for something that improves A Few Acres of Snow, Heavy Cardboard would wholeheartedly recommend checking out the Kickstarter when it goes live.
Yep.
February 22nd. And, we're anxious to see it do well on Kickstarter.
Right on. So, recently we changed our rating system from 1 to 4 to 1 to 6. And
just to give it a little bit of variability so everything didn't get samey.
And we did Zangguo and we did Shipyard on our new 1 to 6 rating system.
And the feedback was awesome.
Yeah.
And some people, I can't remember if it was on our Facebook page, on Twitter, or
all of the above,
or in our guild, but they were like, hey, are you guys going to go back and re-rate the stuff that you had rated on the 1 to 4?
And we're not. So, all right. That's the end of the show. All right. Thanks. No, I'm kidding.
Good night.
So we wanted to do that this evening. We'll start with the first game we reviewed as Heavy Cardboard, Madeira, and progress through our reviews.
Yeah, and kind of have some fun with this. And we're not going to go real in depth.
No.
And maybe it'll give you guys the impetus to email us or interact with us. Hey, what the hell were you thinking? Why was this so high or so low?
Cool.
So without further ado, sir, I'll be honest, I don't know what our previous ratings were. Did you write these down?
I didn't write down what they were previously, but here's the thing. Our new ratings are probably going to be in line with what we originally thought.
Somewhat.
With an asterisk, and that being that we've continued to play these games. And thoughts can mature, right? I mean, we definitely afford ourselves that ability to change our opinion with more play and more thought.
Yeah, and that's really going to come into play on a couple of these, at least in my case. Yeah,
wow,
I think so.
Okay.
So
Madeira.
Yes.
You or me?
I'll start.
Okay.
So Madeira was our Golden Elephant, our inaugural Golden Elephant Award winner for 2013.
Best heavy game of 2013.
I would rate Madeira now as a 5, not a 6. I would rate it as a 5. Does that surprise you?
No. We both rated it a 4, I believe.
Okay.
And that was the top of our scale. And now we have a bit more leeway and stuff. And I also rated a 5.
Really?
It's a awesome,
great,
incredible.
But is it a Grail game like Hall of Fame? I don't know. Yeah. But I still feel good.
It's not a knock on it.
No, not at all. No. I still feel like it was deserving of the Golden Elephant.
Absolutely. Number 2 game we reviewed was Le Havre.
Yes. Which, for those that don't know, or maybe you're new to the show, that's one of your 2 favorite games of all time.
It is.
So, with that in mind...
It's a 5.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I have it as a 6, and for one reason and one reason only.
What's that?
I think it is the best gateway into heavy games that there is. Because you do 2 actions on your turn. That's it. It's very simple.
Turn left or turn right, right?
And so that's why I have it as a 6, because of that fact.
Gotcha.
Cool. So interesting that I have it I have it higher than you.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my 10 is about, it's one of the games that fired the obsession.
Oh, so it's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you really want to come down to analysis,
Yeah.
it's 5.
Okay. All right. And I just...
For me. The third game that we reviewed was Democker.
And, wow, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but Democker's a 6. It's as good as it gets at what it does. Plain and simple.
All right. For me, Democker is a 5.
I figured the look on your face when I said that.
Well, my look was like, what, is everything a 6?
No, it is not.
I'm kidding.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah, it's a 5. It's an awesome game. And
well, I guess you don't own it, do you? So it can't be a 6.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Somebody has 2 copies and won't sell me one.
Well, it's the second edition and the third edition.
I'll take the second.
No, you will not.
That's closer to the first, which has the best rules.
It would be the third if I ever get rid of one.
Right on. The fourth game that we reviewed on our show is Master of Economy from Poland.
Now, this one's going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. I'm curious. I think we both rated it it was either a 2 or a 3. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it didn't achieve the top of our scales.
No, nowhere near.
Because our thought was it had some very, very good elements and everything, but there were some flaws in the game.
Absolutely. There were significant flaws.
Right.
It was very unintuitive, and that it took work to learn the game. And if you're willing to put in the work, that it was a good game.
Yeah.
So, with that said, what do you have it as?
A 3. I think it's a below average game that has a redeeming feature or two.
Yep, and I also put it down as a 3. And just to let you guys know, we don't know each other's ratings on this. Yeah, it's got some cool stuff about it, but it also has some stuff that is just not good.
Yep. The fifth game that we reviewed was Panamax.
And I have Panamax as a 5. A
Ooh.
very good game. And it has some really cool elements with the pushing of the ships and how all that works. But it's not a 6 in my opinion.
It's not a 6.
Right.
I also have it as a 5 on the strength of that, the player interaction of the pushing and stuff like that. I think that takes it from a 4 to a 5.
I agree. I think at the time, and I don't think this would change as of right now, that there is no game that does player interaction in a Euro better than Panamax.
It rocks it. Let's see. In our short but awesome time and fun time as Heavy Cardboard, the sixth game that we reviewed was Craftsman, again from Poland.
Right. And you want to do this one first?
Sure. I have Craftsman rated as a 5.
And I also have this as a 5. It has some things that like the graphic design, a couple of small issues, the colorblindness, or it didn't play well with colorblind. That well is what I'm trying to say. And great game,
totally.
but not Hall of Fame. But also one that I'm excited and very happy to have owned to own.
Except for time, we almost played Craftsman again on Valentine's Day.
Really?
Yeah.
On the wife's list.
Well, she loves that game.
That is awesome, dude. Is heavy of a game as that is?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she freaks me out with what she likes and doesn't like sometimes. Let's see. Moving on to the seventh game that we reviewed, that was Venos.
Venos was the hardest one for me to go back and re-rate.
I had to think hard about it too.
Yeah, this one I struggled with, and I'll be honest, I gave it a 4. It's the reason it's a 4, I think, is I thought about, am I excited to go back and play this game? And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind it, but I'm not jonesing to play it. And that was kind of why I was like, yeah, although it plays extremely quick for a 2-player game, that does have it, that's a plus for it, in that respect. But yeah, just a 4. How about you?
I wanted to 5 it, but in the end, I could only 4 it.
Okay. We are strangely similar on a lot of these.
Yes.
Okay. But any in particular reason?
Well, Yeah, let me defer my answer for a little bit.
Okay.
I will answer that question as we move
cool,
on.
Cool.
So the next game we reviewed as a heavy cardboard team was La Granja from Spielworks.
I have a feeling there's going to be some disparity on this one. Go ahead, you first, sir.
Well, there's a minus sign in front. No,
Stop.
I'm kidding.
I didn't.
It's the running joke between
I
us.
know, but at no point have we featured Notre Dame. So why would there be a minus sign there?
Exactly the point of the joke. I gave La Granja a 3.
Which is exactly where I knew you would.
Yeah, I mean there are some redeeming features in the game, but overall, I think there's just other ways to spend your time better.
And I have it as a 4, which that's exactly where we knew each other would rate it. I think I enjoyed it. I'm glad to own it. Part of me is glad I own it because of it as a collector part, and that it's really rare. I know it's getting reprinted later this year, and I'm happy for folks that they'll be able to get a chance to try it. But it's enjoyable. It's a great weeknight game for Amanda and I to play, but it's not something that I'm like, to go play.
The thing that solidified the game for me as a 3 was after playing it 2 times, played Agricola. And I'm just mentioning that because we're talking about Agricola tonight. Right?
Sure, and it did get inspired partially.
Right, and we talked so much about Agricola, and we just never talked about La Granja
afterwards,
plays
right,
and stuff
right.
like that. And that really showed me a disparity, a large difference in the 2 games.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Well, let's see. After La Granja, we covered the Martin Wallace Classic Brass.
Here, I can answer this for both of us.
Yes.
It's a 6.
Please.
The end. Moving on.
Following the Spectacular Brass, we did Three Kingdoms Redux. And I'm 5ing that game. I want to 6 it just on the theme alone, but I feel like that might be cheating.
Okay, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag a little bit on this one. It was my number 2 game of the year for 2014. And I actually made an argument with you about it being the Golden Elephant Award winner.
Yes.
And so it may be. We don't know, we can't say yet.
Right.
But it was my number 2. I have not played, going back earlier in the episode, I mentioned the other 3-player gems. Right. Maria, End of the Triumvirate, After the Flood, and God's Playground, and Three Kingdoms Redux. So, according to people, those are the best 3-player games. I haven't played any of them other than Three Kingdoms Redux. So I can say that it's the best 3-player game that I have ever played.
Cool.
And therefore, I give it a 6. Go out and get this damn game.
Oh, I totally agree. Own it.
Yes.
There's one in the auction.
There's 2 in
There's
the auction.
2 in the heavy cardboard auction.
Go get it. Seriously, it's that good.
We next covered a game that made me rate Vinhos a 4 and not a 5. Because I think it's the author's strongest offering, and that's Kanban.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, it's Vito Lacerda's game, and I have
gave
Kanban
it a 5. Okay,
right, yeah.
Awesome.
And I think Kanban is a better game than Vinos.
By far.
They're completely different animals. It's comparing Volkswagens to bananas.
Yeah. And then the last game to re-rate, is that a word? That we did on our 1 to 4 scale was Arkwright. Another Spielworks offering.
And we reviewed that on January 1st, actually, of this year. Although we considered it 2014. But whatever.
On first?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. It's a 6. I think it's
wow.
I think it's a Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, it's the best business sim that I've ever played. And it's a 6 for me as well. If you dig the kind of games that we dig, and the 4-hour playtime does not bother you, why don't you own it yet? Go get it. It's really, really that good.
Cool.
So, yeah. So, in recapping, I was more willing to give out 6s than you. So I
had 2 6s.
And I had 5 or 6. 3, 4, 5. I had 5, 6. So half the games that we've reviewed, I said are 6s. Well, I guess less than half.
Just less.
Right.
Just less.
But I don't think that makes me a softie. I just think we've reviewed games that tickle my fancy a little bit more than they do you. All right, so
Let's put a bow on this.
Let's. God, it's been a long time here.
I got to get out in the snow.
Yeah, good luck. I have to.
Didn't I say that at the end of the last episode? What the hell?
Well, it is winter.
It is winter, but it was 70 2 days ago. Before we go, let's remind everybody one last time about our sponsorship by Game Surplus. Thanks, guys. Check them out at www.gamesurplus.com. A lot of great games over there.
Yeah, good people and somebody that we're proud to call our sponsors.
Yep.
We're really happy with Game Surplus and Velma and Amos there.
How do folks get a hold of us?
On Twitter, at Heavy Cardboard. Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. Email, heavycardboard@gmail.com. Website, heavycardboard.com. And please, as always, remember to rate us. Maybe leave a review on iTunes and hear your name on the show. That'd be awesome. And on Stitcher.
Right
That's
on.
a fun show, dude.
It was a very fun show.
Hopefully y'all enjoy it and got a couple different perspectives on, an awesome game that is Agricola. We'll catch y'all in a couple weeks. Next week, look for the Golden Elephant Award.
Best heavy game of 2014.
See y'all later.
Later.